You finish a heavy set of leg extensions, rack it, and instead of walking away, you rest for 10 seconds. Then squeeze out a few more reps, then a few more, then a few more again. That's a Myo-Rep set. One of the more talked about training techniques to come out of the last decade of hypertrophy research, credited with packing near normal muscle growth into a fraction of the usual training time. Let's break down what Myo-Reps actually are, where they came from, what the research says, and exactly how to use them in your own training. Myo-Reps are a set structure built around one longer activation set followed by several short mini sets of just a few reps each, separated by brief 10 to 20-second rest periods, all performed with the same weight. The activation set is taken close to failure, usually 10 to 15 reps, and every mini set after it is taken to or near failure again, just with far fewer reps per burst, since you're already fatigued. The core idea is that once a muscle is sufficiently pre-fatigued by that first activation set, it takes very few additional reps to push it back to failure again. Instead of resting fully and starting over myo-reps, keep the muscle in a highly fatigued, highly activated state continuously, which is where most of the claimed efficiency comes from. Myo-reps were developed by Swedish strength coach Borge Fagerli in the mid-2000s, building on earlier rest-pause concepts but formalizing them into a specific, repeatable structure with defined rest periods and rep targets. His original goal was training efficiency for lifters with limited gym time, not necessarily superior muscle growth, and that framing has stuck ever since. The physiology behind why this works comes down to a few overlapping ideas. Your body recruits muscle fibers in order, smaller fibers first, then progressively larger, more powerful fibers as a set gets harder. A short, easy set never recruits those higher threshold fibers at all. The activation set is specifically designed to push far enough into fatigue that those fibers get called into action. And because the muscle stays fatigued through the mini sets that follow, those same fibers keep getting worked without needing to build back up to that threshold each time. On top of that, the short rest periods aren't long enough to fully clear metabolic byproducts, and that buildup is increasingly recognized as a genuine growth stimulus on its own, separate from the mechanical tension heavy training relies on. So does the research actually show myo-reps build muscle faster? The honest answer is that myo-reps build muscle about as well as traditional straight sets, not meaningfully faster. A study directly comparing the two found both approaches produced similar muscle growth, with the myo-rep group completing noticeably less total volume while training in significantly less time. Comparable results with less total work, not superior results outright. This mirrors a pattern that shows up across several time-efficient training techniques, including drop sets and rest pause training. The consistent finding is that these techniques match traditional training for muscle growth while saving real time, rather than being a genuine shortcut to faster or greater gains. Let's talk about how these compare to similar techniques, since people mix them up constantly. Rest pause training typically uses one initial set followed by 2 or 3 loosely defined rest and continue bursts. Myo-reps use a tighter, more standardized format, one activation set, then repeated mini sets of a fixed small rep target with 10 to 20-second rest windows throughout. Drop sets, on the other hand, reduce the weight after failure and continue immediately with no rest at all, while myo-reps keep the weight identical and use brief rest periods instead. Myo-reps work best on machines, cables, and other exercises with low setup demands, since you need to get back into position quickly during those brief rest windows. Leg extensions, leg curls, lot pull-downs, cable rows, and isolation exercises like curls or lateral raises are ideal candidates. Heavy compound barbell lifts, squats, deadlifts, and heavy presses are generally a poor fit, since reapproaching a loaded bar repeatedly in such a short window just isn't practical. Here's exactly how to perform a myo-rep set. Start with a weight. You can lift for about 15 to 20 reps and perform an activation set of 10 to 15 reps, leaving a couple of reps in reserve rather than going to complete failure. Rest for 10 to 20 seconds, then perform a mini set of 3 to 5 reps. Rest again and repeat that pattern until you can no longer complete the target rep count, which typically takes 3 to 5 mini sets total. The entire sequence usually finishes within 60 to 90 seconds. A variation called myo-rep match set skips the separate activation set entirely. Instead, you take your very first working set of the exercise to failure, and that set itself becomes the activation set for the sequence that follows. It's a practical way to add myo-reps onto a workout without restructuring your entire set and rep scheme. One myo-rep sequence per exercise is generally enough to provide a meaningful stimulus. Most programming guidance suggests using myo-reps on 1 or 2 exercises per muscle group per session, rather than converting an entire workout to this format. Now, for the common mistakes. Starting the activation set to close to complete failure is the biggest one, since it leaves little in reserve for the mini sets that follow. Resting too long between mini sets is another, since the technique depends on staying meaningfully fatigued when you resume. And using myo-reps on heavy compound lifts, where reapproaching the bar quickly isn't practical, is a third common mistake. So, who actually benefits most? Lifters with genuinely limited training time get the clearest benefit, since myo-reps compress a real hypertrophy stimulus into a much smaller window without giving up results. Lifters trying to add training volume without extending total gym time are a second group who benefit. If you already have unlimited training time and prefer the simplicity of straight sets, you don't need myo-reps to get equivalent results. Here's the bottom line. Myo-reps are a legitimate, well-defined training technique that delivers muscle growth comparable to traditional straight sets, while meaningfully cutting the time required to get there. Used correctly, on the right kind of exercise, with a real activation set and genuinely short rest windows, they're a practical tool for anyone trying to train effectively without spending as long doing it. If you want the full breakdown with exact numbers and sample workouts, check the article linked below. And if this helped, subscribe for more evidence-based fitness breakdowns every week.